I enjoy the Final Fantasy series, but that first one, the NES one, that OG to us in the US, FF1 at this point in time, I love the original Final Fantasy. Now, all of those extra versions, from the Wonder Swan to the GBA to the PS1 and PSP, the PS1 is my favorite of that lot. That pixel remaster isn't too bad, though I have some minor gripes, like stuff being easier to buy, but I do enjoy how all the extra levels and bosses were stripped away, and the magic was brought back to its humble ways, the level charges akin to spell levels in D&D, without the ability to upcast or supercharge spells. Look, I'm not going to be unearthing some secret hidden knowledge about this game. There are far too many videos and channels and folks who have put a ton of their own knowledge and research and time into their own works. Check them out sometime, if you somehow haven't already. However, they are all missing something only I can offer. Silly old me. So let's chit-chat a little bit about why I love this game so much. Honestly, I can't recall exactly when it came into my possession or properly how I even came to know of the game itself, but my father took me to some store and got it for me. I want to say it was for my maybe Christmas? Regardless, here's little old me playing it back in the day. It's one of few from those olden days prior to phone cameras being everywhere. That's a gripe for another time. Anyways, I'm around 6, 7. To dispel any notion that I grew up to be the goofball I am now, I've always been this way. Silliness aside for a moment, this is the wellspring where a lot of what I like and enjoy, and just how I am as a person, came to be, even to this day. The first is an easy one, music. We're looking at a short 20-song OST, with 2 of them being a shop theme and one of those elusive menu themes. Side note, I like when games do this. It's not always the best, especially if a dungeon theme is really rockin', but with the OST being as short as it is, as well as most songs clocking in around a minute or less, having something comfy to punctuate more uneasy dungeon themes provide this moment of reprieve, particularly when you're deep in a dungeon and low on spells and supplies. I'd say my top 3 tunes are the town theme, the Sunken Shrine, though the Temple of Fiend, or the Chaos Shrine, is pretty great as well, and the ending theme. I do also love the battle theme, but I wish there was at least a different fight theme for bosses. I mean, I get it, and I like it, and subsequent games would quote-unquote remedy this problem, but it would have been nice to have the differences, but also partly because that theme was one of the first earworms I experienced. I would be humming it during recess or something of the sort, and other kids thought, it was a little weird when I said I couldn't get it out of my head. They'd just be like, stop humming it, forget about it. Little did they, or me for that matter, realize it would inflame in me, randomly making bleeps and bloops for a while. I still fiddle with my keyboard and DeFle mask and stuff, but more for simply hearing sounds than really trying to make anything anymore. Perhaps I should delve back into that. Next up, much less of an active player on my part, but let's talk about artwork. I love Yoshitaka Amano's artwork. His style translated into pixel form, such a smart move. I mean, FF1 came out a year and a half after Dragon Quest 1, 11 months after Dragon Quest 2. How do you compete against a game with artwork from Toriyama? And this is, after Dr. Slump and a few years into Dragon Ball, which started airing as a show, 1986. Well, what you do obviously, is you enlist another tremendous talent who had done covers for the novels of Vampire Hunter D, as well as working for the Speed Racer anime and character designs for Gatchaman and Casshern, to name a few. Special mention to his work on the first 10 novels of 16 of the heroic Legend of Arslan, or at least the Kadokawa edition. His artwork is one of the few I really feel drawn toward. Not to say others are bad, but I'm much less stun-locked, or much less likely to be stun-locked by visual work. I can appreciate a good deal, like Ghibli's style, or the newer style of Star Ocean Second Story. Not sure what on God's green earth they were thinking for that PSP versions. What I'm getting at is this. Point me to an exhibit or art book, art piece, etc. of Yoshitaka's, and I'll Goku instant transmission my butt over there. Also, shout out to Tim Gervin, who is the likely maker of the North American box art, incorporating Yoshitaka's own work as inspiration. I don't know, I love this box art. So darn good. This leads us to look at the other person leading the Final Fantasy charge, Sakaguchi Hironobu. Not to say FF1 is some mind-altering, earth-shattering story, but to little old me back in the day, the first portion of the game is magical. It marries exploration, adventure, and daring in such a way that it feels like this is it. To free the inner waters. It is like how latter games in the series would have a second world, or the moon. The simple act of locking out 4/5 of the world behind a ship and airship instilled me with a sense of adventure. More importantly, how the game set up its early game seems to have affected my mindset by making even the smallest, most mundane trips into some fun journey. I am a bit of a goober like that. This game was my first foray into ancient, technologically advanced floating castles, fortresses, time loops, time travel, magic, sword and sorcery, all that sort of fun jazz. Plenty to hang your hat on, vague enough to allow my own imagination to run. And while I have appreciated work Sakaguchi has been a part of as time has marched on, like Final Fantasy IX, Lost Odyssey, The Last Story, Fantasian, playing FF1 bloomed within me an interest in making games and writing stories. I even sent to Nintendo of America game ideas I had. They were kind enough to write me back, though the game materials are lost. I still have the letter. While half of it is typical bleh, I like to think the other half isn't. Dated for June 13th, 1998. Oh, turning into dust just reading that. Dear Taylor, thanks for writing. I appreciate having this opportunity to be of assistance. All I can think of to say is, wow, your idea was very well written and drawn. Believe me, I see a lot of ideas while working here, and yours stands out to me. Unfortunately, no matter how great I think your ideas are, we don't accept unsolicited ideas for new products. As a large corporation, we have a structured way for people outside the company to submit their ideas. We must do this because we can't possibly create everything that comes to us. As you've requested, I've enclosed your diagrams with this letter. You know, it goes into talking about the other two things. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, oh hey, here's numbers you can call. This one's funny, the 1-900-288-0707. For the US, $1.50 per minute. Oh, gracious. And it was only available between 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and then 2 hours earlier on a Sunday. How nice of them. And that's Pacific time. Regardless, it goes down, blah, blah, blah. And then the last little thing, it says, good luck with all your games and all your creative plans. Keep up the good work, Taylor. Sincerely, Nintendo of America Incorporated, Terry M. Kenneth, Consumer Service Representative. Like I said, not a huge big deal, but it was just a nice little thing. I don't know, it was, you know, I'm at this point 11. Yeah, I'm 11 when I get this. So, yeah, little kids allowed to dream, aren't they? Heck, and now that I think about it, I still have the partially written story I turned it into during high school, which in turn has served as the forever burning ember to write stories. Sager's Calling and Sudraba both started off as game ideas. Inspired by Sakaguchi, in all those years I played Final Fantasy I, and I do mean years. Not simply from then till now, I mean I had spent most of my elementary school years playing this game. Years. For a brief moment, my dad and I shared a controller and playing this game. We played basketball and other odds and ends, but divorce would soon rear its head, and I don't have many memories of him for a few years of my childhood, with the basketball court being a wee bit too far away for a toddler to wander off to. FF1 would serve as the bridge to cross the gap until it became more of a presence in my life a few years later. Not simply playing the game, but I took the same 4 classes with the same 4 names, yoking myself to the task of beating this game. There was Kala the fighter, Bola the red mage, Tila the white mage, and Obi the black mage. Stalwart frontliner, plenty of magic, and an appropriate amount of swag. It would take me years to fight through this game, combing through dungeons, finding robots, fairies, a nuke spell, Excalibur. Eventually I would return to the Temple of Fiends, the Chaos Shrine, to finish the journey. And that final dungeon is rough. I did like the cyclical nature of going back to this dungeon from the beginning of the game, which we only uncover the whole process of it through an observation in the Sky Castle in a weird room where a robot nearby tells the player to look out and quote-unquote see the powers of the elements drawing to the center, to the Temple of Fiends. That's right, you're not even given some visual. Use your imagination. What was I talking about? The war mech and its damnable nuke spells, mind flayers and their insta-death touch attacks, gas dragons and whatever they are, time loops. Anyway, I cut through the final dungeon with many failed spelunking attempts. Then, one magical day, I finally did it. I reached Chaos, and he promptly put Bell to ass. I was devastated. Not joking, I had been gutted. I thought, how can I beat this game if the final boss ragdolled me like this? Then it would come to me. You spend all this time, you've had all these game overs before. Have you forgotten why you even kept at it in the first place? I mean, by this point in time, my father was back in my life fairly regularly. The bridge was no longer needed. This wasn't some sort of let's play or journal entry or some sort of task or demand. It was a game. I had spent a lot of time playing, and one of the few ways to remain tethered to my father, but like I said, that was no longer needed. I could call him, see him on the weekends or some random day. Why persist? It's only a game. It was through a supportive conversation with a friend that it dawned on me. You spent all this time. You're at the end. Be like Nike and just do it. And to recall that promise made to myself. FF1 is still simply a game, but it became a vehicle, a conduit for grand adventures for really, really young me. It also became the shield of something infinitely more important. A promise to myself. Yeah, sure, in the grand scheme of things, FF1 is simply a game, but it houses all that adventure, all that weight of years trying, and a promise made to myself to beat the game. I buckled up and knuckled down, did a little bit of leveling, and took the fight to Chaos. The sense of relief from winning and hearing that ending theme, even to this day, it's just such a nice thing. Even when I just, within the last year or so played through the Pixel remaster and heard that version of it, it gives me all the comfy feelings. It was a long time coming, but more than anything, it was a joy to finally beat the original Final Fantasy. And thankfully, I was able to avoid some sort of pit of despair emotionally or anything like that, because I was able to jump to so many other games I hadn't played through and beat, Dragon Quest 1, Phantasy Star, and all sorts of things. So it was it was the snowball that just kind of kept on rolling and rolling and rolling. Which is also kind of a nice thing that I think about now, is that, there was all that adventure and everything that went on while playing it. However, that's not quite where it all ends. From repeated replays for simple nostalgia, or to try a different party arrangement, to playing new versions and coping with the changes, I would always find my way back to this game, in some form or another, thinking on those challenges I'd create for myself. I think the first time I got through the whole game without a character falling in battle or being turned to stone, etc., was playing with my friend Arbel on the PS1 some 20 years ago. Oof. It was around this time that the internet began to house increasingly easy to access information. There's noble souls parsing the data, informing us on all the bugs and issues of games. And well, FF1 has some. From luck really not helping the thief class, to intelligence not bolstering the black or white mage's magic power, and the red mages for that matter, especially just compared to those 3 classes. It didn't really do any difference. Heck, some spells don't even work at all. I totally coped and gaslit myself as a child thinking, these spells work. Temper, that totally boosts one's own power, totally. Saber, boosts power and accuracy. Yeah. Lock makes an enemy invasion lower. Miss as always. Lock 2 increases an enemy's evasion instead of lowering it. Heal 2 works regularly out of battle, but works even better in battle. Enemy attack attributes are messed up, which makes mind flayers absolutely brutal. Thanks, because that one, that ice cave scarred me for a very long time as well. Oh, all those Nito buffs to certain type of weapons to take on enemies. They didn't do anything. We're talking about the Wear Sword, Rune Sword, Dragon Sword, Core Sword, Giant Sword, Flame Sword, Ice Sword, Sun Sword, Light Sword, Excalibur. Goodness, ain't that great. In a way, I was a little bit miffed. It certainly crystallized why some parts of my struggle in playing the NES version happened. However, it also allowed for me to reflect. Here is my favorite game of all time. Surprise, I know. And it's being dragged through the mud. Mark after mark after mark. Hit after hit after hit. For a brief moment, I felt that. At least from what I recall. It has been some 20 years after all. Then, I realized, why? Why should it pummel me? Why should it wound me? That's a fairly common mindset we can develop. An attack on a thing I like or enjoy is a direct attack on me. It's silly, and I learned, to the best of my ability, to not act that way, but to also not dig into what other people may enjoy. I may state that it's not my thing, or I don't like something, but I'll generally give room for someone to talk about something, especially what they like. Unless it's FF5. Boo that game. Boo it. Boo. Jokes aside, I think this really helped me avoid a lot of the silly online stresses or general in-person chit-chats during the birthing pains of social media. The back and forth, ranting is not my game. I have other things I'd like to do, like videos like this, or rambling weeklies, or writing. And you know what? I think this is a good place to wrap this up, because I enjoy the Final Fantasy series, but that first one, the NES one, that OG to us in the US, FF1 at this point in time, I love the original Final Fantasy.